It took me over 5 years to build my sim racing and flying rig, and today I'm going to take you on a tour. I'm not only going to show you my sim rig setup today, I'm also going to explain you a little bit the journey and why I decided to build it like this. My rig is not optimized for a single car or a single racing class. I wanted to drive multiple cars and multiple racing series. I like driving F1 cars as much as GT3, as much as rally drifting, as well as normal road cars with clutch and 8-shifter. And also I enjoy flying from the normal Cessna to the fighter jets and also fly helicopters. I try to combine all these different simulations in one rig, and this is what I call the hybrid rig. Because I'm not only limited to driving, I can also fly here, and I can also play arcade games like GTA in my sim rig with using my wheelbase, using my hoters, and also being able to comfortably use mouse and keyboard.
Yes, backup required.
Yes, requesting backup.
It was my dream playing GTA like this someday, and now I can do it. When I started out, I was driving with a cheap Omega wheel stand Fanatec CSL Elite in my living room in front of my Beamer with Gran Turismo 7. And it was already so much fun that I soon decided I need some upgrades here. And I was falling into the rabbit hole of the motion platforms and decided to buy used motion platform, a DF Reality P3 with included haptic shakers in the seat. And this was like, wow, so amazing. I mean, this took the whole sim racing experience to a next level. And I couldn't drive it out anymore after I had this experience because everything else suddenly just felt absolutely dead. I mean, even driving without haptic shakers feels totally dead to me. It doesn't make fun to me anymore. And this is how I became addicted to always looking for the next upgrade, finding the next little thing I can add to my sim racing experience to make it more realistic, get it to the next level. And building is to me as much fun as driving or flying. And this is how this developed over the time, further and further and further to where it is today. Yeah, I was driving with the DF Reality on a seat in front of my ultra-wide screen, and then I noticed, well, it sucks having it uncoupled because especially when you're flying and you have the big movements, you move, but the screen doesn't move with you, and it kind of feels unnaturally and weird. And this is how I decided I need to mount the screen to my rig somehow. But having a 49-inch ultra-wide screen mounted to the DF Reality is not that easy. So I bought that screen stand for the DF Reality as an add-on, but it only came with 2 screws on each side, and having that huge monitor mounted to that was just, oh my god, I don't trust this, and I didn't want to break my monitor with heavy motion, and that's why I decided I need some upgrades here, which was the reason why I built that aluminum rig on my motion platform to basically, stabilize the monitor somehow. I used my old wheel stand bars to have it stabilized on each corner as well as in the middle. And also I used industrial angles to cut more screws on the angles so it doesn't break down under heavy movement. And I also saw, well, it would make sense to stabilize it from the top as well. And this was the main reason why I built this cage around my screen to stabilize my monitor and save it even under heavy movement. And this enabled a whole new level of upgrading for me, because I suddenly was able to build a rooftop and add a lot more other details. I'm trying to take you today through my whole sim rig and show you each and every upgrade, and especially all the hacks I developed over the last years, enabling me to still getting in and out of my sim rig. Also how I'm being able to play with a normal keyboard and mouse without having the mouse sliding around all the time, to switch between each and every simulation just in a couple of minutes without having to rebuild my whole sim rig. Do me a favor and leave me a like and subscribe. This really means the world to me. If you haven't already done it, please do it now. It takes only 1 second, it's free, and it helps me to grow and provide more content for you in the future. Tell me in the comments if you liked the video, and please also ask me all your questions. I'm happy to help you. And now enjoy the video. Let's start with the base of my sim rig, which is the DF Reality P3 motion platform. It has the axis roll, pitch and traction loss. And if you ask me, this already covers for like 90% of the use cases for sim racing. If it comes to sim flying, you can maybe add with heat and surge and sway even more dimensions that can be useful, but to me at the moment this is sufficient. On top of that, I built a customized aluminum frame to basically reduce the flex of the whole rig and to stabilize the fixed monitor on my rig. And yes, I had to drill many holes into my platform to bolt this onto it. This cage wraps around the whole sim rig and it stabilizes the monitor from 5 points, so the rig can even move extremely aggressively without having the danger of damaging my 49-inch screen. Moreover, it is very useful to add my peripherals because I can easily adjust them on the aluminum frame without having to drill new holes into my DF Reality frames for each upgrade. The goal of this cage was to get it as sturdy as possible, but also as light as possible, because I didn't want to add too much weight to my motion platform. I used 40-40 bars for the main frame, 40-80s for the tower in the back, 20-20s for the rooftop, and 30-30s for the bars behind the monitor mount. Here you can see my Fierce Standard Sparkle Grid Q seat. I decided to add a bucket seat to my sim rig for more sturdiness, and I chose this one because it also had enough space to cover up my G-seat pillows, still leaving enough space to also hide my transducers in the back and also beneath my legs. Yeah, you heard right, I added a passive do-it-yourself G-seat to my sim rig, and if you want to know more about it, don't forget to check out my other video. I'll link it up here in the description that will cover everything in detail regarding my G-seat. If you wonder what these little pumps on the side of my seat are, each of us is connected to a pillow in my seat and with the G-seat, so I can easily adjust each pillow on the fly when I'm sitting in the seat, so I can match the pressure so it feels exactly right. Here you can see my wheelbase, which is a Fanatec DD1. I know it's not the latest on the market anymore, but it does its job. If you dial it in correctly, it's still a really good wheelbase. And as a steering wheel, here I used the Fanatec Club Sport Formula V 2.5X, which works perfectly fine for Formula 1 as well as for GT3. And if you add some nice stickers to it like I did, I could really recommend to check out that lovely stickers site where I got the stickers from. I think this brings the whole steering wheel to another level. Up here you can see my Fanatec shifter as well as the Fanatec handbrake. I positioned both right here next to my steering wheel because I'm not using it as an 8 shifter anymore. I'm using it only as a sequential shifter for rally. The reason why I'm not using it as an 8 shifter anymore is because I upgraded to the Moser AB9 force feedback flight stick base, and this can also be used as an 8 shifter. So the good thing is I can set up a 2-in-1 situation here. I can use it as a force feedback flight stick and have it in the same position to be used for my 8 shifter, and it works perfectly well. I can easily switch between both of them just by removing the shifter knob and bringing in the flight stick, which can easily be done in 10 seconds. To turn my AB9 force feedback base off and on, I had to add a small plastic piece at the back that works really well like a lever for the power button. I routed it through my cover so I can easily switch the base on and off from the inside without having to crawl under the rig every time. And seriously guys, this AB9 shifter is an amazing piece of hardware. You can set up different profiles for each plane and cars. The switching between shifter and flight mode is very easy and works absolutely well for me, so I can highly recommend this product. Now let me explain you my passenger cabinet. It's basically all do-it-yourself, and the main goal was to keep it as light as possible. Therefore I just used an old cardboard and put foil on it, the metal foil on the bottom and the crystal foil on the side. And I also cut tubes to the right length and connected it to a little tube cage, added stickers to it and put it on my rig, and it adds so much to immersion. It really is absolutely amazing, and it also moves with the motion rig. You can see my Stream Deck XL. I added a customized sticker on it, so it will make it look like as a CarPlay from a modern car. And I mainly use it as a button box with different profiles for each and every simulation I play. And just below it you can see my customized clock. It's Porsche clock inside of a gauge holder I place right over my wind system. And below that you can see my key holder to place my key in. In the middle behind my steering wheel you can see my small DDU. Earlier I used the bigger DDU in the middle, but I replaced it by the small one and decided to use the bigger one on the left side, mainly for telemetry or for rankings, sat-nav navigation or other things, for instance like a second screen. On the left side you can see my flag box, which I cheaply acquired on Etsy, and just on top of that there's a 3D printed holder for my iRacing safety net, so I can easily put it in front, or when I don't apply the net I just put it back to the side on me, so keep it tight in place. And this net, I can tell you, really adds a lot to the immersion of the iRacing experience. Many people ask how I get into my sim rig because it looks really tight. It's actually pretty simple. When I'm not flying, I just remove the handle from my helicopter collective. This gives me more space to get in. I can also fold down my hoters. I mounted it with 2 simple shelf brackets so I can move it and create some extra room here. My keyboard is easy to move too. It is attached to a TV wall mount, so I can just slide it forward. With these small changes, I have enough space to get into my sim rig. Now let's talk about the roof of my sim rig. I wanted it to be light and simple. To block the outside light, I mounted thin MDF panels on the top of the aluminum frame, and I also covered them with black foam. Then I built a roll cage with white pipes. I cut them myself and added stickers and a little bit phone covers, which looks really great and really improves the immersion. For the lighting, I installed Govee lights, 2 in the back and 2 in the front. I use them as ambi lights, but also as lighting for recording and streaming. I also added a curtain around the rig. This is really light and it's easy to open and close, and it blocks all the outside lights, so this helps me to focus and feel more inside simulation. At the top you can see my rear view mirror. This is a do-it-yourself project. I mounted it on a motorcycle holder so I can move it to the left or to the right or turn it away if I don't need it. I mirror the in-game rear view onto Vivid with software, which adds a lot of immersion and is really fun to use. In the center, I mounted my race logic display. It's easy to reach in this position, and it also stays all the time in my field of view without blocking the screen. Right next to it is my track IR sensor. Because it's attached to the rig, it moves with it, so this gives me basically automatic motion compensation. On the left I have my face cam and a light to brighten my face for recordings. If you look up to the top, there I installed an LED strip. This is used with SimHub, and I use it for ambient lighting on the sides of my rig, but also as a brake light. So when I brake, part of the strip turns red and it lights up my hands like a real brake inside a car at night. Also, I extended the LED strip downwards to light the passenger side and my footwell. Everything is controlled with SimHub. At the back you can see my active belt tensioner. The two motors are mounted to the aluminum rig, and below them on a wooden plate there's the power supply. I also use the system to compress the rear of my G-seat cushions. The belt runs upward over two pulleys on the tower and then over my shoulders. The tower lets me adjust the height so the belts won't push down on my shoulders and cause pain. This way I can use the belt tensioner comfortably. Down here you can see my button box. I rotated it by 90 degrees so it fits perfectly between my sequential shifter and my H shifter. I mainly use it for the adjustment of traction control, ABS, brake balance and engine mapping, but also to start the engine with ignition and start buttons, and I can also control my belt tensioner and motion system with it using a safety switch to turn them on and off. Here you can see my Fanatec Club Sport BMW M3 GT2 steering wheel. I use it for normal cars but also for rally or drifting, and I added a custom sticker to give it a fresh new look, and I also added do-it-yourself magnetic mods to the pedal shifters so they feel more crisp and less soft. Together with the Formula wheel, this covers almost every driving use cases for me.
Into 4 right long, don't cut. And 4 left, into 3 right short.
To run my sim rig, I use my main PC, which I also use for work. It has a 9800X3D CPU and an ASUS 5090 GPU and 64 GB of RAM. Connected to it are 44 USB ports and 6 monitors. The sim rig itself is plugged into 3 power strips, which I turn off when I'm not using it, and it also uses 3 USB hubs. If you don't like cable mess, don't look down here. That's why I added a curtain, it hides the chaos. Below you can see my pedal cover. This is my latest do-it-yourself add-on. I built it from cut panels and the edges are connected with 3D printed parts. It works as clean cover for my pedals. When you open it, you'll find my 3 mbooster pedals. I also added simagic haptic shakers to each pedal. If that sounds like an overkill, I explain in detail in my other video, I link it up here, why I did it and why I really think that it adds to the feeling. The cover is really useful because it keeps the dust away from the pedals and is also the base for the mount of my LED stripe to put lights on my pedals. Above that you can see the wind system. It's a do-it-yourself setup using notcua fans controlled by an SRS IntelliBox. In the future I plan to run everything through SimHub, so I have to rewrite the Arduino code to enable that, and the tubes run through the rig and it comes out to the front where they directly put the airflow in my face. The system lets me simulate the wind at higher speeds. I get more airflow and at lower speeds less. It also helps a lot with cooling, especially in summer when the rig gets really hot. It even creates pressure similar to what you feel in a real race car, which adds a lot to the immersion. If you plan on building a wind sim by yourself, I can really recommend to use airflow straighteners because these basically double the airflow that comes out of the end of the wind sim. Now let me show you another small hack I came up with. In a motion rig, using a normal mouse is a problem. The movement of the rig also moves the mouse and the cursor goes all over the screen. You can use a touchpad or a trackball, but I don't really like them. they are not precise enough for best clicks, or even FPS games like GTA are impossible at that. So I built my own solution here. I drilled small holes into my mouse as well as my mouse holder and added small neodyme magnets. This lets me attach and remove the mouse very easily. So when I want to use it, I just take it out and use it like a normal mouse. And then I place it back to its locking position, and in this way the motion rig can move, but the mouse stays stable and doesn't affect the cursor anymore. Now let me show you another small hack for my flight setup. I wanted a way to mount and hide my flight MFDs without installing and removing them every time. So I took a small screen and mounted my Thrustmaster MFDs on it. This lets me to use them like in a real fighter jet, which is very useful in games like DCS, for instance. You get real displays and real buttons, which feels absolutely great. And to make it easy, I don't need to rebuild anything. When I switch to flight mode, I just remove my steering wheel and flip the screen with the MFDs upwards. It's always ready to use. I mounted the whole thing on a TV mount under my wheelbase and it works perfectly fine. When I want to switch from racing to flight setup, it's very quick and simple. I just remove the shifter knob and attach my flight stick. If I fly helicopter, I also put my helicopter grip on the collective. And then I go into the Moser Pithouse software and change my throttle and clutch pedals to work as rudder pedals. I see both pedals to feel the same, and I can load different profiles for each and every aircraft. I still keep the feedback on the pedals using my simagic haptic shakers because they can be controlled with SimHub, so I can get the vibrations for things like touchdown and wing slope, etc. After that, I just set up my flight stick in the software with a force feedback profile for the aircraft or helicopter I want to use, and I'm ready to go. And if I want, I can flip up the MFDs or I just leave them down, it depends on what I'm going to do. This way I can switch from full racing mode to flight mode in about a minute without almost no rebuilding needed. At this point, my sim rig was already set up to switch easily between racing and flying games. But I also wanted to play GTA with it, using motion, effects, my steering wheel and even my HOTAS support. So the challenge is that GTA uses keyboard and mouse, so I needed an ergonomic setup where I could easily reach both without putting the keyboard on my lap. I had to find a good position for the keyboard mount to make sure the mouse was easy to use, and I also noticed that my arm gets tired if it has no support while using the keyboard. So I needed an armrest. My solution was simple. I just positioned the keyboard and my HOTAS that way that I can use my HOTAS throttle as an armrest. This makes it much more comfortable even for longer sessions. Now I can easily reach both the keyboard and the mouse without getting tired. This gives me the perfect setup where I can even play first-person games in my sim rig and quickly switch between driving, flying and regular gameplay without having to rebuild anything.